All right. How's everybody doing this morning? Awake? Coffeeed up, everyone? Good to hear. Thanks to everyone for coming and for many of us braving the cold or the relative cold. I won't tell you how warm it was when I left Tucson Sunday. You'll all be jealous, unless you're from El Paso, and then it was probably the same weather in El Paso. So I'm really happy to be here and happy that this meeting came off and really glad that all of you were able to manage the sort of the last minute frenetic nature of putting things together for this workshop, the goal of which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcomes here. So when I first talked about this workshop with Dr. Corman from NSF, the goal of the workshop was pretty clear, and that goal was that we wanted to make sure that we matched the expectations from the National Science Foundation to the expectations and production of PIs. And the best way to do that kind of tech transition is for transitioning people, and the best way to transition people is have them in the same place. And so this workshop was the means by which we wanted to achieve this goal. And so we came up with sort of a two-pronged approach to make sure that we were able to carry out this mission and carry out the goal. So the first is that we wanted to have exciting talks. So you may be the judge later how exciting they actually are. I actually think that the topic areas and the speakers are very exciting speakers. And so I'm looking forward to hearing their talks and having the interaction go back and forth with the aspiring PIs and current PIs, as well as talks from the government side from the National Science Foundation. But most importantly, as we said before, the transition of ideas happens when you have time to actually do those discussions. And so if you look at the schedule of the program that we have, there are big, wide, empty slots where sort of nothing's happening on the official program. And that goal is for people to have a chance to talk with each other, as well as to permit plenty of time for meetings between PIs and program directors. So as par for the course in the exciting talks, I begin by introducing the fact that we'll have several program directors from National Science Foundation, either giving introductory talks to the materials from the solicitation, or talking sort of in a panel format about some of the things that they see in proposals that might make the proposals less receptive to panel, so common mistakes that are made in CPS proposals, as well as understanding where your ideas may fit in the solicitation. And so those are organized mostly as panels, but we have a few talks that are just pure talks. So that's one side of the exciting talks. The other side is that we have several existing CPS principal investigators who are going to talk to you about the research that they've been able to have successful as part of the NSF solicitation and proposal process. And so these are by and large junior faculty, and by junior faculty I mean not full professors. So these are folks that for many of you are your peers. They're not, even though their work is really great, they're not already in demigod state. And so you can approach them now as mortals and talk about the kinds of things that they did. And all PIs make mistakes when they're producing their proposals, and so that's we have a chance now in the interaction session for you to talk about things like that you may not get a chance to at a conference. So the time for discussion warrants just a little bit of explanation, just in case you didn't get the understanding from the check-in at the desk. So we've made the times for the one-on-one meetings between NSF program directors and the aspiring PIs. They're organized in two sort of orthogonal formats. So at the front desk, we keep a list of every program director and their list of meetings across the 2 days. And the boardrooms that are located sort of on the west wall over here, we have 3 boardrooms, and program directors will be moving in and out of those boardrooms. And so if you don't have a slot yet, you can go to the boardrooms and look and see what slots are open and sign up for one of those slots actually on the paper there. And some of the program directors have a little extra bandwidth in their schedule, so we can add slots as necessary if it turns out that there's a scheduling conflict or if we don't have enough empty blanks that are up on the page. So in terms of the logistics for your time for discussion with program directors, be plenty early to the meetings so that we can make sure that they keep on time. And so, for example, the first meeting will start at 9:30 this morning, basically right at the end of this session. And so if you don't know whether you have a time or not, you should look and make sure whether your time is at 9:30 this morning so that you can be there. If you haven't received an email that had the update of all of the times that came automated from the CPS VO, you can look on the logistics page, and there's a list by program director of all the talks there. So just Control F for your name, and hopefully you'll find your name there. And if you don't, again, see one of the folks at the desk or see me, and we can check to find a time or try to pair you up with a program director. So you may be talking to somebody in the hall and say, man, I wish I had your slot. And they'd say, I wish I had your slot. So if you decide to do that, sort it out amongst yourselves and then just make a notation on the page that's outside the door so that the program director knows who they're going to be meeting with at a specific time. They appreciate that, I think. And they also like to know whether or not they have an empty meeting coming up. But you can also let us know so that we can update the sheet that we have at the front desk. But already, if you know, like you looked at the sheets and you said, oh no, something's wrong, I scheduled a meeting and that time doesn't work for me anymore, see Sean Whitsett in person at the front desk, and he'll either find somebody to switch with you, or you can talk to me and we can find some way to switch it out or add a little bit of extra bandwidth. And again, if you don't have the meeting slot, sign up for an empty one outside. Hopefully all of that will be resolved at the end of the first session today. If we run, out of slots, many of the program directors are basically around for both days, and so we'll have plenty of opportunity for slots, but I didn't want to write them down so that there wasn't like an hour of empty spaces and then one name at the end that the program director has to stay around for. So that's in deference to their schedule. And speaking of schedules, the program that we have will probably not change that much, except if we run late. It may be that things will end at 9:40 instead of 9:30, for example. But please make sure you keep up on your one-on-one meetings regardless. So if you want to see the updated program, you can use this URL, which is really inconvenient to type. And based on its inconvenience, we decided to put a QR code on the back of your name tags. It's not actually a raffle ticket, right? So I don't have any free Frisbees or anything to give away. So if you don't know about QR codes, they make it easy to scan a URL from a mobile device. So if you don't have a QR code on your phone, like a QR code app, you can just visit this URL or scan this QR code to download your own QR code app. Okay, travel support. So thanks to the munificence of NSF, we were able to grant many of you support to travel here, even though it wasn't full support. Hopefully it made it a little bit easier for you to come. And so if you were offered travel support and you filled out the form about travel support, then you probably already had a form to fill out in your folder. So look in your folders if you had travel support. See if you have the form there. If you do, all you have to do is sign where it says signature at the bottom, and then fill out your tax ID or social security number in the spot where it says social. Even though it says employee reimbursement form and you're not an employee, this is what we have to do. Anybody here work for a silly bureaucratic organization that has rules that you don't understand? A little bit. This is being recorded. Okay, so we hope that we don't have to do anything else after you give us this form. I've asked so many people at the University of Arizona, is this all we have to do? And they say yes. And then they talk to someone else and say, oh, wait, there's one more thing you have to do, right? So I really hope that this is the end of it. But please forgive us if we send you an email later and like, so you got to fill this out and fax this back to us ASAP. So our goal is that once you sign that form and hand it off to Sean, that we'll take all these back. We have a faculty, not a faculty, but a staff member who will input all these into the system, and hopefully in a couple of weeks you'll start seeing the travel support come back. So we don't need to have your receipts, we don't think. You've all been, I made that joke earlier, right? So they told us we don't need the receipts to provide this travel support because we can bill it like this as support for travel, and because you've signed something and said that you actually have these expenses, that's enough. So please be patient with us if that's not the case. But speaking of me joking about this is being recorded, this is being recorded. So we're hoping to broadly disseminate not just the results of the talks that we get from the program principal investigators and the program directors at NSF, but also the panel discussions that we have and the questions that you might ask. And so if you're a little bit uncomfortable asking a question and having it be recorded for all posterity, then wait until a break to ask your question to the program director. Otherwise, your question may show up on the video feed, even though your face may not. And so just be wary of that. And if you're uncomfortable about that at all, then see me during the break and we'll make sure that we take care of you. And by the way, at the end, in case you had colleagues who couldn't come, we'll have all of these videos available from the website that you used as the group organization, so you'll be able to find it there. And you can, those will be available for anyone for at least a little while until the solicitation isn't relevant anymore. So the final thing that I have to say is the acknowledgments. So thanks very much to Dr. Corman for helping in the conception of this workshop. I was really happy to carry it out, but I think the idea came from David and is based largely on a successful carry out of this kind of a workshop for a different NSF program. So I also hope that all of you remember to put this any opinions, findings, and conclusions statement in your NSF slides, especially for sessions that are being recorded. But also thanks very much to the administrators of the CPS virtual organization who helped me in making sure that we had all the pages lined up. Even though it didn't seem to work out for everyone, most of you got notifications whenever the pages were updated, which was, for me, much more convenient than having to remember to send an email every time I updated something. But if you had trouble with that kind of detail, or if you weren't getting the right kind of emails, see me during one of the breaks, or forward me an email that you didn't get, or send me an email. Okay, that was a joke, right? Send me an email and say I wasn't getting them, and then we'll have the VO guys look and make sure whether or not there's some configuration problem. So I think that that's all I have for the introductory slides. I won't talk nearly this long tomorrow, and I think we should reserve almost all the speaking time for the people who you actually want to hear from.